Hi there. This interview is a part of SASAH's Alumni Outreach Project, where we reach out to our alumni and try to gain their perspective on how the very unique and kind of new ways of learning in SASAH has really helped shape their careers or them as a person or even in their future graduate studies. So with all of that being said, today I am joined by Natalie Scola from the graduating class of 2020. She graduated with a double major in, well, actually, honor spec in art, history, and museum studies, and a major in SASAH. She was the res don of the SASAH floor for 3 years, and we on the SASAH floor know her as res mom. And also this fall, she'll be going to University of Toronto to study her master's in museum studies. Hi, Natalie, how are you doing?
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Kind of with everything going on right now, it's an interesting time, but doing these interviews has really, I think, given me a lot of really cool opportunities and insight into what it's like to kind of put to use everything that SASAH has taught you guys throughout 4 years. So I think that's really cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I guess to kind of jump in, I'll go with the first question that kind of is on everyone's mind the moment they hear about SASAH. It's kind of like, what is that? So in your own words, going through the program, what is SASAH? How would you describe SASAH?
SASAH is a very interdisciplinary program, and it really connects you with all aspects of the arts and humanities because it is an arts-based program, but it also encourages you to look into other fields, whether that's science or math or engineering or political science. So you really are learning about what interests you, not just from the art side, but also whatever else catches your interest. And it really helps you to develop critical thinking skills that are applicable in academia and in real life situations and with a ton of hands-on stuff. So it's truly interdisciplinary in every sense of the word.
Wow, I think that's probably our most concise, well said description so far in these interviews. That was
Way
very
better than
well done.
saying that no one knows what SASA is, which is the other answer, because no one knows what it is because it can mean so many things.
Yeah, exactly. I feel that. I feel that. Okay, so knowing that it can be so many things, what one thing do you think attracted you to the program the most?
That's really hard because I was attracted mostly because it was interdisciplinary, because I couldn't really focus on what I wanted to study at first. I loved so many things, whether it was art or history, but what really got me in the end was the internship component of it, that hands-on learning, because with the arts, so much of it tends to be theoretical, and having an internship or co-op or what's the word that we use for it? Experiential learning.
Okay, yeah, experience.
Experiential learning component of the program really forces you to apply those skills that you're learning in SASA to a real life situation. And you didn't need to do an internship with, sorry, that was my email. You didn't really need to do an internship with SASA. You could have done it with your second degree as well. So it allowed people to learn what was interesting them the most and give you that hands-on real world experience.
Awesome. Okay, wait. So for those at home that are kind of unfamiliar with the experiential learning program and how that kind of implements with SASA, can you explain that and also give us some of your own experience with those
Yeah, for
interventions?
sure. I did 2 internships. So internships happen in the summer, typically in between like the winter semester and the fall semester. But other people will do experiential learning, which is like a hands-on kind of co-op style learning, and you can do that in the summer or throughout the school year. So some people were doing their experiential learning while at school. I chose to do mine in the summer, and my first one was with the Stratford Festival. In between first and second year, I went to go live in Stratford by myself, which was such a big adventure for me. I have so many good stories. I'll talk about forever. But I went to go live in Stratford and work at the festival archives, where I was helping with the costuming side of the archives. So I got to catalog all the costumes. I helped fix their database. I brought a lot of knowledge of fashion history and garment construction, so I could help accurately describe these costumes. We gave tours, we helped with the props. So it was a really great summer, and it helped me develop hands-on curatorial skills because my second degree is museum studies. So it really helped me get that real world sense of working in an archive in living history. I also worked with the Grand Theater to do another internship where I helped catalog a lot of their ephemera, textual ephemera, so less costumes. It was really a lot of paperwork that needed to be filed from like years and years. I helped develop a database for that as well because I had never done one. And I also worked as a private art consultant to a private client. They had an art collection. They also had stuff in their private house that needed to be cataloged, and I prepped a lot of their stuff for auction. I also helped write catalogs and did interviews with artists. So again, that was more geared towards my second degree with museum studies and working with galleries and artists. But it gave me so much hands-on experience that I wouldn't have really developed with a theoretical course.
Wow. Yeah.
Sorry, that was a really long answer.
No, that was really good. Wait, so how did SASAH kind of bridge that gap for you between?
That's a bridge the gap because it developed these critical thinking skills. I wouldn't have gone to the Stratford internship without SASAH. That was an internship that was afforded to me through the program. The other ones, SASAH also helped me with the grand one. And then the last internship where I was working on my own, I found that one myself. But because of how SASAH is structured, I was able to use that as a credit.
So cool.
I was able to work and then also get school credit for it. So because of that, I was able to have these opportunities. And then what I learned in SASAH was the critical thinking skills, my writing skills, because all of these involved a lot of writing, whether I was writing a catalog entry or writing to an artist or taking an interview. I developed a lot better writing skills throughout SASAH, as well as my critical thinking skills, making decisions on how to build databases. We took a digital humanities class in second year, which was all about coding and the intersection of technology and the humanities. So that helped when you're building databases and doing digital cataloging. So all these little things that you don't think are part of real world become so relevant when you're actually out there making decisions that you don't really know. I had to do, when I was doing the private art collecting job, I had to wrap these massive paintings. These paintings were like 8 feet by 15 feet, and I'd never wrapped a painting. And you think, wow, we're in university, we're going to learn how to wrap a painting.
Yeah.
And I had to use critical thinking skills. I had a roll of, craft acid-free paper on a metal rod between two chairs, and I had to like roll like I was Christmas wrapping. But that wasn't something I learned in school. But I had the critical thinking skills I needed to do that. And that I didn't immediately make that connection of, wow, I learned how to do that in university, because there wasn't a wrapping painting class 101. But I was writing up my internship experience for Barb, our internship coordinator, and I was like, oh wow, that actually is critical thinking. I really had to look at a problem and think about what I had around me to solve it.
Wow, wow. And your kind of experiences with the internships, I think, are really interesting, because I think it goes to show just how much SASAH as a program is so much more than teachings and learnings, but it also really helps you to kind of find that real world experience and branch yourself outside of Western's campus, which I think is really
exactly. I really like the stuff with the Grand, because that brought me outside of the Western campus, but still into something that's connected with the history of London.
Yeah.
And that was important too, because I didn't feel like I had a connection to London for a really long time until I started learning about the actual cultural components of the city, which is so cool.
Okay, so I think your honors special is kind of uncommon. Like, I don't know many people that have undertaken art history.
Visual arts is a small department within arts and humanities. Like English feels a lot larger, even though it's still a small department in itself. But within visual arts, art history museum studies is like microscopic.
Yeah.
Four of us graduated this year.
Wait, so knowing that that's kind of a very small, almost, I want to say unique kind of honors special, how did you find pursuing that and SASAH together? And how do you think they fit together?
I found they overlapped really well. A lot of what we were doing in SASAH, I heard repeated in art history museum studies, or the other way around. If we were talking about in first year, we studied postmodernism, you think, wow, when's postmodernism ever coming up again? I studied it every single year.
Wow.
It's something that comes up a lot. It's something I think I wrote an essay on postmodernism every year because I loved it so much. It was such a definitive course for me, like opened up all these possibilities. In SASAH, when we talk about, feminist theory, whether it's an English application or whatever we're talking about, feminist theory or Marxist theory or post-colonial theory, all those things are repeated in different disciplines. So you can be studying it in English, you can be studying it in women's studies, or you can be studying it in art history. So you get the same thing kind of repeated, and you can see it from different angles. We talked about in second year with Professor McMurrin, we talked about the idea of aesthetics and what makes something beautiful and the philosophy behind that. I would have never taken that course on my own. But then I found what I learned there was applicable to other things when we're talking about art and art history. we also had to put together an exhibition for Professor Fox in second year. And what I learned in museum studies really was applicable to what we were putting up in exhibition. This class was an English-based class, but we had to do this exhibition, and no one else really had the skill set, but I did. So that was like a really great transferable skills from one degree to the other, where even though it was an English writing course, we could put up, you know, I knew what height tank labels at and how to do posters, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I found that they overlapped really well, and the content overlapped really well. And where it differed, I was able to transfer my knowledge between the two.
Okay, that's a really great answer. But kind of very much bouncing off of your idea of transferring knowledge and kind of skills. Now that you're moving into a different phase of your academic journey, you're going to be studying a master's in museum studies at U of T. How do you think SASAH has like prepared you for that brand new, I want to say, pathway?
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I feel like SASAH did give me a bit of a leg up when applying, because I could talk about all these different interdisciplinary aspects of what I learned.
Yeah.
I didn't just go in and study art history and museum studies, which is kind of like not the necessary prereq, but it helps you on the museum studies path.
Naturally, I hope so.
I did all these other things too. I learned about English, and I learned about languages, and I learned about political science, and I learned about philosophy, and we did coding, all these other components. And it helped me expand my horizon of knowledge. So I don't have to go in completely blind into a new pathway. And it didn't have to be museum studies. If I went into say political science or law or even medical school, I could bring a different background to it because I've been exposed to so many different things, and I have an interest in all these different things because of the SASAH background. So I think it really helps to be well-rounded, so you have an understanding of all these different things. And even if I'm not an expert in English, I still have an understanding and appreciation for it that I can bring with me.
Very true.
And then on top of that, it's that critical thinking. It helps so much when you can like analyze something and parse it and turn it into your own opinion when you're writing, you know, an essay, or you're giving a presentation, or when people have to write their theses.
I can imagine. Yeah, no, definitely. Sounds like a very good kind of molding experience for you.
Definitely.
Speaking of molding experiences, you were one of the biggest parts of my first year, and I'm sure everyone says the same thing. So for those of you who are watching you don't know, Nat is basically our SASAH mom, because for 3 years in a row, she was on the SASAH floor in Ontario Hall, and she was the resident there, and she played a very integral role. I remember one time I was sick, and Nat made me chicken soup, and she's done that kind of thing for everyone. She cooks for you. She's always having floor meetings, and we're always building that kind of bond. So, I mean, obviously for me, it's something incredible, and I really, really value you and all the help and advice that you've given us. But for you, I want to hear your perspective of that. How do you think being a resident for 3 years and kind of playing that integral role in so many of SASAH's future students kind of shaped your life and your academic journey?
I sometimes joke with my parents that I went to university not to study, but to actually just be a resident student.
Yeah.
So much of my time. If I could go back, I'd do it all again. I loved it so much. And the SASAH floor was such a unique kind of like microcosm of residents. Usually, if anyone listening who's not yet in the SASAH or university system, the SASAH floor is a living learning community where everyone on the floor tends to be in SASAH, and they have them for different programs as well. But it really created this community of students who went to class together and then came back and lived together. And I had a really interesting role of helping them academically and helping the students mentally and emotionally and socially, or any other way they needed, and having to straddle that divide of academic space, but also space where you can get away from academics.
Yeah.
So, and which is really hard when you live with the people that you go to class with, and you sometimes feel like there's no separation of like church and state, but school and home. And it can get really hard, especially because SASAH is such like an academically challenging and academically gifted program. Yeah. So you really feel like you can't escape from that sometimes. So I have to think of ways to bring the community together. So whether that was like cooking for a bunch of students, making cookies, making lasagna, whatever I did, I tried to connect the students as much as possible. And for me, the floor was such an important part of my university experience because I was able to not influence, that's like a really strong word, but help these students on their journey. And every year I tried to do something different. I would do field trips. We went to Stratford for a couple years. This year we were going to go to the Grand, but Corona really really put that one off the
Yeah.
plate. So going on field trips to Stratford, which we did a couple years, wasn't just for the first years. Anyone across all four cohorts could have gone. So it was trying to make connections between different years. I really liked doing speaker series or speaker panels where I would invite professors in. We did one on the importance of an arts degree, because everyone always gets that question, like, what are you doing with your arts degree?
Like, yeah.
And it was great to bring in professors to speak from that professor's, viewpoint of why you should do this. And then this year past, we did one on the intersection of arts and science, and why arts need science and why science needs arts. So these things don't exist in silos. And this was ways to bring the students out of their like SASAH bubble into the wider world, helping them connect with each other, with other students, and then ultimately the wider Western and London campus. So I felt like that was a very largely self-imposed role for me. I promise you don't have to do this as a staff member. It wasn't in my contract. I really did this on my own, but I thought it was so important because first year is such a pivotal time. You might come into Western and know your career path, and then suddenly it changes. You might come in doing political science and realize you hate it and you want to become a studio artist. And as a resident student, I'm kind of that first point person that people would come to. I heard all these different problems from students, and it felt very validating at the end of it to be able to say, wow, I have helped at the end of it like 60 or 70 students figure out what they're doing. And every student I interacted with, whether they lived on my floor or elsewhere in the building, were so important to me because I was able to guide them and help them figure out what they wanted out of university. And doing the projects with the first year students, whether that was, going to the seniors home and giving lectures, which was something we did with your class.
Yeah, so much fun.
Or going on a trip, it brought such a great sense of community. And I felt like at the end of the year, we had such a tight floor that, everyone still communicates with each other years and years later. So that's another long-winded answer, but I will always talk about my resident staffing experience because it was really, really important to me to build that community.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Especially for students who are far away from home.
Yeah, definitely. First year was pretty much molded by you, definitely, I have to say. And even though, as you said, it kind of wasn't in your contract, I think you're a great kind of exemplary model of what SASAH students are like, and that we all very much value that community, and we all value being together and creating that kind of safe space within the program. So I think even though it's not like something that residents said, hey, Natalie, you have to do all these things, but nevertheless, as a SASAH student, I think you very much exemplify and like demonstrate the qualities that we value in SASAH. So yeah, no, I really like it.
I'm so glad that it meant a lot for you because it meant a lot for me.
Yeah, I'm actually getting kind of sentimental, so I have to move on to the next question before I start crying. But so kind of just to end off, I guess you've had so much experience in SASAH with students, with staff, with prof. So I guess on the final note, I guess I want to ask you, what is your number one piece of advice for SASAH students that are looking to join the program, or even current SASAH students right now?
I think this is like a two-pronged kind of piece of advice. It's don't take everything so seriously.
Yeah.
A lot of students, because SASAH again is that like it fosters that academic excellence. It's something you hear a lot. Students will take that academicness to the fullest extent, and not everything is that serious. Like sometimes a quiz is just a quiz, and if you fail it, it's okay. Things happen. Like seriously, things happen. I know everyone wants to be as academically best as they can, but you have to allow yourself to fail because then you'll grow and learn from those mistakes. The amount of times I failed things in university, embarrassing. Like sometimes I'm like, how do I even get into a grad program? But you grow and you learn, and you have to realize that not everything is like your Rhodes Scholarship application. Sometimes it's just a quiz or a reading response or a forum post. And then to go with that, talk to your professors. Like my professors are my best friends, which sounds really sappy, but I love my professors. Especially if you're in like a smaller program like SASAH or anything really in the arts, you're really getting close with these professors. You see them every day. I had the same professor 6 times. Professor Hatch in the visual arts department, I bet she was very tired of seeing me. But these professors know you so well because you're in such close quarters with them. You can go and talk to them about academics. Don't be afraid to talk to professors. If you're not understanding something, go talk to them. And if they can't help you, they know people who can. And they're great people to learn from because they have so much lived experience, whether it's at an undergrad level or a graduate level or a international level. They know things and they can help you along your own journey. And you shouldn't be afraid to ask for help. It's okay to fail and it's totally okay to ask for help. And I think that's what so many first year students are afraid of. So if you're listening, get to know your profs.
Awesome. Okay, well,
reference letters. And they will bring you coffee and tea, and they're really cool people and they're not scary.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously, SASAH profs are absolutely incredible. And for those of you who are thinking of joining SASAH, Lawrence is amazing, and he's going to be one of your first profs. So, I mean, he's just like the stepping stone for kind of the array of amazing profs that SASAH has. So, as Natalie said, get to know your profs. So, on that final note, I guess I want to just thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview, especially in these really weird, awkward, challenging times with Corona.
Unprecedented times.
Very much so. So, I mean, it really does mean a lot to me, and I'm sure to everyone watching that you kind of took the time to tell us about your experiences and all the skills that you learned, because I'm sure we can all definitely learn from that. So, thank you so much.
Thank you for the interview. You did an excellent job.
Thank you.
Critical thinking skills.
Exactly. And I'm just in second year, so imagine. But following up after that, so if any student is watching this and they're kind of like, oh my God, Natalie is incredible, I need to contact her right now. What's the best way that they can like get through to you?
I want to give out my UWO email, but I don't know how long that's active for. Down with the elimination of your Western technology is, you can get me at nscola.uwo.ca. No, wait, that's nscola@uwo.ca.
Okay.
And then my Instagram, I guess, at Nat Scola. And Scola is cola with an S in front of it.
Ah, okay.
I want to add that to like your little description of
the
video.
It'll be up. It'll be up. Okay.
But yeah, Messenger Pigeon, also great. I'm a little old fashioned, so I'll take Messenger Pigeon. Messenger bottle.
Just a bottle and just watch it drift away. Yeah, no. But anyway, thanks again so much.
Thank you so much.
Incredible. Okay, bye, Nat.